What keeps Bill Nye up at night when thinking about this scenario?
Climate change and asteroid impacts. Asteroid impact, as we say, very low probability, very high consequence. To put it in PC, personal computer terms, I think it's Control-Alt-Delete for all of civilization.
So Peter.
Richard.
Have you ever thought about evacuating the Earth?
Of course not. I have never thought about evacuating the Earth. I haven't got a spaceship. There's nowhere I would go. If you're talking about the Earth meaning land, going underwater, no, I haven't thought of that either. Or going into space, none of it. In fact, none of it. I've not thought about it at all. Sorry, stop grilling me.
Yes, I know. All of a sudden it's an interrogation.
Yes.
So the scenario is U.S. President Morgan Freeman.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Deep Impact reference, which I'm sure you don't remember or never saw.
Is it a movie?
It is a movie.
Never saw it.
So in that scenario, of course, there was literally one of these situations where an asteroid was barreling down to Earth. I can't remember if they had 30 days or 3 months or whatever it was, but he had to sort of break the news to the world that now we had to, quote unquote, evacuate the Earth. With that little time, it was a bit of a Noah's Ark scenario where obviously everybody wasn't getting on, good ship, goodbye.
There's probably not enough space to take more than...
I don't know, a few thousand, I think in this scenario it was. First of all, do you believe you and I are maybe on that ship, perhaps?
As podcasters?
Well, I mean, they got to have, wherever they're going, they'll need podcast hosts.
My guess is they take Joe Rogan and Mark Maron and not Peter and Richard.
So you don't think we're necessarily on the Mount Rushmore currently of podcasts?
Nowhere near, and I'm happy to say that.
So we obviously would want to have better skills, more indispensable skills if we are going to be on that sort of, versus,
we better start working now if we want to get some...
Final Countdown.
Final Countdown. Well, yes, I know that song. Europe, yes.
But somebody who would probably be on that ship, because they're going to need scientists.
Okay.
And they're going to need communicators who are very good at explaining science. And of course, that means...
Bill Nye?
Yes.
The science guy?
No, it's another Bill Nye entirely. We couldn't get Bill Nye the science guy, but we got a guy, he's got some theories, he's got some ideas, got some strong opinions.
Bill Nye the zebra
science.
breeder.
Yes, he's a zebra breeder. No, of course, actually, I'm being facetious. We do have Bill Nye the science guy joining us today to discuss what if we had to evacuate the Earth.
Bill Nye is a scientist, engineer, comedian, author, and inventor. He's also a man with a mission to help foster a scientifically literate society and to help people everywhere understand and appreciate the science that makes our world work. Bill's classic show, Bill Nye the Science Guy, was nominated for 23 Emmys and won 19. And it paved the way for a career in making science accessible, fun, and super cool. And he's still doing exactly that with his sensationally entertaining and informative podcast, Science Rules with Bill Nye.
Bill, thanks so much for joining us. I think it's fair to say for everybody here at What If and our incredible fans in the community that we sort of stand on your shoulders here. What If probably doesn't exist in terms of being out there as something that looks to make science accessible and fun, building on the legacy of what you've been doing for decades now. So just really thrilled to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you guys. I mean, wow. Sure, you're welcome.
The Mount Rushmore, hopefully, in years to come, will be Bill Nye, maybe Peter, maybe me. We'll see how it goes today. But, I mean, as far as scenarios, and obviously today's What If is kind of a scary one. It's not one we want to think about having to evacuate the Earth. Before we sort of get into it, we know that we're monitoring stuff in space all the time. We've never been better at it. But we also know there's surprises and unanticipated things because it's space. What keeps Bill Nye up at night when thinking about this scenario?
Climate change.
Interesting, really?
Yeah. Climate change and asteroid impacts.
as the two possibilities.
Asteroid impact, as we say, very low probability, very high consequence. To put it in PC, personal computer terms, I think it's Control-Alt-Delete for all of civilization. So you wouldn't want that. That's what we call a bad outcome in the insurance business. So we want to avoid that, and that's why, with the comet that just came through here, it was identified in March with the NEO-WISE spacecraft. NEO-WISE is the Near Earth Object Wide Field Infrared Survey Explorer. Yes, so it was looking for asteroids. And, asteroids, as we say, it's like looking for a charcoal briquette in the dark. Yeah. But it's, but in the infrared, they do glow. And so they're around 200 Kelvin. If you could find them, then maybe you could identify whether or not you could determine whether or not they're going to cross Earth's orbit when we're there. And then you could do something extraordinary and cool to give them a nudge. Big rocket, big bomb, a big set of spacecraft that have lasers on them that zzz the asteroid surface and cause it to ablate, and you get a little momentum and nudge everything out of the way. Yes, be fantastic. Except in space, there's no sound, so it wouldn't be zzz. It would just
yes. Wouldn't sound like that exactly.
A lot of this, Bill, comes down to time. Say we can't redirect it and it's headed straight for the Earth. A lot of it is time for us. Like, how much time do we have to prepare to get off the Earth? If we do get a decent hit.
You say get off the Earth. What are you? We're going to go to the International Space Station, or we're going to go to some space station that is yet to be built.
So
somebody would have to be building it right now.
Is that what's going to have to happen? We would have had to have already started building this.
Well, kids, people, colleagues, my esteemed.
I appreciate that.
Deflecting an asteroid, everybody wants 20 years, but let's call it 30 years notice. 30 years notice. That's a lot, but it's not that much. If you're in high school right now, by the time you're a captain of industry, you'll be driving the ship and giving the asteroid a nudge. But these extraordinary and amazing ideas of building enormous space stations on the scale of geosynchronous orbits, things 36,000 kilometers above the Earth's surface, or 34,000 above the surface, whatever. These are just lovely, fun physics problems. Can I say V squared over R or whatever, the velocity squared divided by the radius, nothing but fun. Who's going to pay for this thing? Who's going to build this giant thing? And it would, at some point, block some of the sunlight that hits the Earth. And I don't mean to be dismissive. They're wonderful, cool physics problems. But economically, they're very unlikely. Don't you think?
Well, I mean, to your point earlier about climate change, too, if we can't sort of come together on that, the sort of the mobilization required to do something like this just seems almost silly to even consider, I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean, yes. But it is, they're just cool problems. Now, the reason this whole thing happened, can I try something? We had a little technical issue earlier today, everybody. But let's go up here. Let's all go up here onto the old thing. And then look over there. Can you see right there? Mm-hmm. That's a poster of Buzz Aldrin walking on the moon right there. Okay. And what we love about that, if you get up close to it, it says Aldrin's visor reflects Armstrong. That's all it says. The caption, Aldrin's visor reflects Armstrong. It doesn't say, and they were on the moon. And the reason they were on the moon is the US committed about the cost of 3 interstate highway systems to put them there. So if you're just evaluating things, which is more valuable, the interstate highway system or 6 people walking on the moon, or 12 people walking on the moon, 6 missions, you'd probably say the interstate highway system, probably. And the reason that happened was because of the Cold War, because the former Soviet Union was perceived as this terrible threat. And through a remarkable political circumstance, a president declared we're going to go to the moon, and then he was catastrophically killed. And so then his legacy just took on this life of its own. And people went to the moon, walked around, brought back some moon rocks, which have been great and continue to be of great scientific value. But if you just wanted moon rocks to determine the age of the Earth, which has been the wonderful scientific outcome of that, of the moon rocks, you could do it much more cheaply, robotically. In fact, the former Soviet Union sent a rover there and brought back a few kilos robotically, but it doesn't have the same romance. And so when we talk about these Stanford Tauruses, Tauri. Well, see, here's the thing, along with my many other difficulties, I took 3 years of Latin.
Oh, wow.
So I'm fine. You get into this thing of how do you pronounce this? Is it alumni, alumnae, Tauri?
Monkeys, monkai.
I just can't deal. It's so stressful to even think about it. No, I'm all right.
Do you see, like, people have talked about living on the moon, settlements on the moon, going to Mars, living on Mars? Is that also within the realm of not worth considering right now to your, like?
Oh, no.
Or do you see that as more likely?
Here's the thing. If I were king of the foothills, I would want to go to Mars, but I want to come back. Mars is smaller than the Earth. It cooled off faster than the Earth. It got an ocean and an atmosphere perhaps 1 billion years before the Earth did. So it is reasonable that if life is going to start someplace where there's water, it started on Mars. And it is extraordinary, but not crazy or irrational to suggest that life started on Mars. Mars was hit with an impactor, and then woo, 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 except it's in space, as I like to joke, it's just a rock came to Earth, and you and I are descendants of some Martian life form. That is extraordinary. And that is a hypothesis worth investigating, especially at the very low cost of interplanetary missions compared to all the other crazy things we do.
Yeah, and I mean, everything's on the table now these days. But to your point,
Anyway, the Perseverance rover is on its way there with some astrobiology experiments on board to investigate this hypothesis. I mean, it's just a wild old time. It's wild.
We're going to say goodbye to the video viewers on our podcast, and we're going to catch up with you on the other side, on the audio podcast. But before we go, our viewers are obviously big fans of yours. Where can they go to follow you, or what kind of cool things have you got coming up?
Well, everybody, your homepage, I'm sure, is BillNye.com. But while you're there, go to the podcast homepage, AskBillNye.com, and send us your question. The podcast is called Science Rules. We do 2 versions. Is it okay to pitch a podcast on a podcast?
Yes, in fact, it actually makes
2
tons
versions,
of sense.
the regular, about hour-long version, and then the much shorter coronavirus edition, which we do every 2 weeks. We've had Tony Fauci on. We've had Bruce Brilliant. We've had Celine Gounder, people that you see on the TV. We've had them on the show. We had Arnie Duncan, who in the U.S. was very known, well-known guy, who's head of the Department of Education, talking about opening schools during coronavirus pandemic. And so these people are very thoughtful, and I encourage you to check us out. Science Rules at Stitcher Midroll.
Wow. So Bill Nye, a guy who knows a lot, also a guy who probably never stops learning.
Doesn't sound like it, does it?
No, and I think you're a guy who likes to never stop learning, am I right?
Not to the same level of absorption, let's say, as a guy like Bill Nye, the science guy, but yes, I love to learn. I love to continue to learn, just like we do every week on this show.
Well, now is the time to continue your studies or your learning because, with COVID-19, we're all at home. Most of us have a little bit of extra time to learn. Well, why don't you become more informed, creative, inspired, relaxed, all with the Great Courses Plus. we're really big fans of this, aren't we, Richard?
Well, so I was at home the other day, and this sounds made up, but it isn't. I'm setting up my smart TV because I just moved, so I'm going through the apps available on my smart TV. Woot, there's our old friend, greatcoursesplus.com. I'm thinking maybe I could jump in and get prepared for the Bill Nye episode. Woo, moon rocks. There's a whole episode on moon rocks from the Apollo mission. This Professor Bob Hazen is talking about this, in his words, the scientific bonanza that created 50 years ago when they just came home with a few rocks from the moon. You'd think, well, that's kind of, what, is it a paperweight? No, they've been actually gleaning tons of scientific info. And then all of a sudden we're talking to Bill Nye earlier, and he's talking about moon rocks and how they've actually helped us understand what the age of our planet, continents here, minerals and elements in the earth. Like, it's incredible the amount of knowledge we've been able to glean from moon rocks, and incredible the amount of knowledge I was able to glean from a GreatCoursesPlus.com episode that I was getting ready for this show.
Well, let me tell you, the Great Courses Plus has not only that, but thousands of lectures on almost any topic imaginable, from the history of Egypt to the study of DNA, and new courses are added all the time. There's someone for everyone, not just moon rock lovers like yourself. Plus, every course is presented, like you say, by subject matter experts from top universities and institutions. It's in-depth, reliable, fact-based information, and you can watch or listen from your phone or your TV with the Great Courses Plus app at any time from anywhere in the world. So make the most of your time. Keep learning with the Great Courses Plus. Right now they're offering fans of this show an amazing deal, an entire month of access for free. This limited time offer won't last, so sign up today to get started. Go to thegreatcoursesplus.com/whatif. Don't wait. Go to thegreatcoursesplus.com/whatif.
I think you meant to say thegreatcoursesplus.com/whatif.
That's, I think, exactly what I said. So let's go there and get your free month.
So, quick summary from Bill Nye.
The summary was basically
It's not happening.
It's not happening.
It's too expensive.
Yeah.
Mars is unlikely. Certainly even mobilizing people around doing something like this. And in the end, really, his overall message is kind of what? Like,
keep an eye on the planet and keep care of what you have right now. I mean, which is what we should have all been thinking in the first place. I don't know why we really think that, oh yeah, we're just going to leave the Earth and we're going to go find some Goldilocks planet to live on.
yeah.
It's not easy. As he says, it's going to take all the resources of all the governments in the world, or all the money, and we're not going to get 7.7 billion people off the planet. So how about we just stop polluting and stop chopping down all the trees? And
Yeah, if we thought that was a reasonable plan B after talking to Bill Nye, not so much.
yeah.
And as you asked him as well, in the end, this is all about time. What scenario would we ever have where we really had enough of a lead up to get anybody really off this planet in any real way?
30 years.
Yeah, and 30 years, I mean, come on, we
can't even get it together to
build a new bridge in 3 years,
Yeah.
or whatever it is, and certainly focus on things like climate change. So again, not that he was being pessimistic, but he was being really realistic in that, look guys, that's not really an option, so you better just focus on what you have here at home and devote whatever energy, time, and even hypotheticals to how can we solve this problem here before we start thinking about maybe evacuating the Earth.
That's right.
Wah, wah.
If you enjoyed this discussion with Bill Nye and you want to check out some more with Richard and I and Bill Nye, well, why don't you click on the link in the description below, which is a link to our extended audio version where Bill will continue on chatting with us. This time he's going to touch on how many people we could possibly get off this planet.
Well, when you say getting off the Earth, how many people are you talking about? You know, the 10,000? You know, there are 7.7 billion people. And getting 10,000 off the Earth is good, but I don't think it's what... it's not a solution that everybody's crazy about, you know.
Yeah, and more than just how many people can get off the planet. We went on for, a long time going in all sorts of cool, super wild directions about basically the cosmos, life on other planets. I mean, this is not something, to be honest, you want to miss.
No, you never want to miss anything that Bill Nye says because it's informative and it's funny.
Well, or if it was just you and I, you wouldn't want to miss it either. But yes,
Right.
Bill brings an extra layer of
He's the
professionalism, credibility, authority, and entertainment that
I was
we
going
might
to
not
say
have.
he's the third dimension to our chat, but he's really the fourth dimension.
That's
to
how
our
I like
chat.
to think of it.
All right, join us next time on What If Discussed.